All right, let's do it on a Friday. Good to have you with us here on Ed Schultz News and Commentary from Washington, D.C., Center for American Progress. Big announcement yesterday. I'm back on the tube. It starts on January 25th, on Monday, 8 o'clock Eastern Time, prime time, baby. RT America. That's Russian television, American division. Looking forward to it. Interesting to see all the response from conservatives who don't know their ass from third base, and all these right-wing websites that draw conclusions and write stuff. Never called me. Never called me. You know, you can go to Mediaite, you can go to TV Newser, you can go to Republic, you go to all of them. They ain't worth a shit. None of them. They don't have any reporters. They just have these little kids playing on computers down in their basement and whatnot. Oh, he said that. He said this. She said this. She said that. And that's the extent of the journalism. And I'm bought and paid for by the Kremlin. It's hilarious. I give credit to my hometown newspaper, The Forum in Fargo. They actually called me and did an interview. And so go to their website, in-forum.com, and you can see the story. And give the show a chance. Of course, with conservatives, you can't win. What I do want to point out this morning early is that on Facebook, at We Got Ed, it's very uplifting to see all those positive comments that you have missed my work on television and you're glad that I'm getting back. And many of you are saying that you're going to go get satellite. That's fine with me. Welcome aboard. It's going to be a good program. I tell you what, I've been here for the last couple of weeks. The folks at RT America, they are true professionals and journalists across the board. And it's going to be a serious look at the news, a nightly news package at 8 o'clock Eastern, anchored here out of Washington, D.C., starting on January 25th, a Monday. All right, now with that, there's always the money soundbite. There's always a soundbite during a news cycle that will jump out and get the attention. And I'm talking about a soundbite, not who said what about who or whatever or going back and forth, something of substance. And that's what I try to do on this video cast every day, is to bring you something of substance. Just as yesterday we spoke with a constitutional lawyer who said that Ted Cruz certainly cannot be president of the United States based on the Constitution. Well, that was a big story last night when the Republicans debated. But what was the money soundbite? Now, I want you to listen very closely to Governor John Kasich of Ohio. It's almost as if he's reading right out of the ledger of Leo Gerard, the Steelworkers International president. Listen to this.
I'm a free trader. I supported NAFTA. I believe in the PTT because it's important those countries in Asia are an interface against China. For too long, what happens is somebody dumps their product in our country and takes our people's jobs, and then we go to an international court, and it takes them like a year or two to figure out whether they were cheating us. And guess what? The worker's out of a job. So when they be found against that country that's selling products in here lower than the cost of what it takes to produce them, then what do we tell the worker? Oh, well, it just didn't work out for you. I think we should be for free trade, but I think fair trade. And when countries violate trade agreements or dump products in this country, we need to stand up against those countries that do that without making them into an enemy. And I want to just suggest to you, how do I know this? Because so many people in my family worked in steel mills, and they didn't work with a white collar, they worked in a blue collar. And the fact is, those jobs are critical. They're hardworking members of the middle class, and they need to be paid attention to because they're Americans and they carry the load.
All right, so let's go just a little bit further here. Those are union workers, Mr. Kasich. So are you finally revealing that you have family members who are in unions and that you tried to bust them up in Ohio? But that's another story. The point here is that he understands what undercuts American workers. What he failed to do was point to everybody else on that stage last night and say, all of these guys are for the Trans-Pacific Partnership, which is going to be 40% of the world's gross domestic product. All of these guys are for it. I'm not for it. I won't let it happen. But wait a minute. Maybe I'm giving him too much credit because he never said he was against the Trans-Pacific Partnership. He didn't say, I'm against it. It won't happen if I'm president. So here's Kasich letting the American people and workers know that he understands the issue, but he just went up to the lake and put his toe in. He didn't jump in all the way with the workers saying, I'm going to be with you all the way. And they're so slick in the way they do things. Look, if the Republicans are in unless it's Trump, we run a real danger of gutting more American jobs. That's the point. But at least we know now that everybody on that stage knows where Kasich is, and everybody knows what the issues are. And they have no problem with gutting American jobs because they all favor Wall Street and big money. They're all a bunch of damn corporatists that don't give a shit about the American middle class. That's the bottom line. Okay? Got it? All right. This is Ed Schultz News and Commentary, brought to you by Communication Workers of America, Alliance for American Manufacturing, Bio Green Clean, and the iSave team. Speaking of Ohio, let's go to former State Senator Nina Turner from Ohio. Senator, good to have you with us.
Good morning, Big Eddie.
I'm doing great. How you doing?
I'm doing mighty fine.
Well, you are the campaign surrogate working closely with Bernie Sanders' campaign. What'd you think of the Republican debate last night when Kasich was talking about the Trans-Pacific Partnership? He understands it, but he didn't say where he stood on the issue.
I know. Well, the governor was in Congress, as we all know, and the TPP is really bad. It's bad for Ohio. It's bad for workers all across the country. So I'm not quite sure where the governor stands on the TPP, but as we know, the other folks on that stage who are in the Congress right now did support the TPP. And Ohio, in terms of our manufacturing jobs, our steel, our cars, as we know that the auto bailout helped the auto industry and our workers here in Ohio, those types of trade deals have been really bad for a state like Ohio. And I'm still shaking my head as to why, even our president, this was his deal.
There's no doubt. It's a head shaker, no question about it. All right, the Sanders campaign for recent days now has been trying to mop up the inaccuracies of Hillary Clinton, and she continues to put them out there. Every interview, she's being asked about the health care plan that Bernie Sanders wants, and that's Medicare for all. Cut 12 with a big Les. She's talking today about how she expects the Republicans to repeal health care.
Now, I expect the Republicans to do what they're trying to do, repeal it. They did it last week. Thankfully, the president could veto it. But I'm a little surprised to be having this debate. And it's really a very general debate when it comes to Senator Sanders about, no, we need to have a single-payer system. Well, what does that mean? Now, the only clue that I can find, because he hasn't laid out a plan, is to go back and look at the bills that he's introduced 9 different times. And it's a bit concerning to me, because it would basically end all the kinds of health care we know. Medicare, Medicaid, the CHIP program, Children's Health Insurance, TRICARE for the National Guard, military, Affordable Care Act, exchange policies, employer-based policies. It would take all that and hand it over to the states.
Nina Turner, I need you to respond to that.
Absolutely not true. And I'm really surprised. It's really funny that the secretary is saying that Senator Sanders wants to dismantle health care. It is a dog whistle when it comes to that issue. And I'm really very disappointed that they would say that about a man who even she served in the Congress with, who everybody who knows his record knows that he has been fighting all of his political career since he's been in that Congress to make sure that everybody that everybody has access to health care as a right in this country, not a privilege. And it just boggles the mind that someone that is fighting for universal health care, then to have your very own Democrat say to folks that you want to dismantle health care. I certainly agree with the Secretary of 2008 when she was Senator Clinton that all Dems should be working together. You may recall, Big Eddie, when the senator at the time really challenged then Senator Obama. It was very critical of him because she was upset because he had said some things about universal health care because she had a plan at that time. And what she said is that Democrats should not be doing that to each other over health care, and that he should not be upset just because she had a universal health care plan and he did not. Well, what was true in 2008 is still true right now in 2016, that Democrats should not be doing that to each other, and you should not impugn the integrity of any of somebody that is running against you, who you have served with, and who you know in your heart is a good man, and that he stands up for health care. It is absolutely unequivocally true that Senator Sanders' plan would dismantle anything. The truth is, Big Eddie, what he wants to do is take it a step further, that there are still 29 million folks in this country who do not have access to high-quality health care, and most of those folks are hard to insure. So it's flat out not true, and it's very disappointing.
Every interview she does, every opportunity she has, she points out that this is not Medicare for all. Listen to this.
Care for all is not the same if you're turning it over to the states. Now, if he has changed his mind after introducing that bill 9 times, he owes it to the public to tell them. If he has changed his mind about having the federal government pay 86% of the cost and having states have to come up with the remaining 14%, when in fact we know Republican governors won't even pay for Medicaid, which they are going to get initially for nothing. Well, that's what we mean.
A legislative proposal is not an overall plan.
That's
and
right.
Hillary is. I'm surprised at this tactic. Does it have something to do with the polls? Of all things to attack another Democrat on. Now, how is Bernie Sanders going to handle this in another weekend debate coming up with the Democrats? I mean, this is a huge opening for him to set the record straight and go on offense. What about that?
Oh, he's going to be just fine, Big Eddie. Folks are going to see Senator Sanders continue to stand strong on his principles, his values, and what he's been fighting for his entire time. And, you know, he did introduce a bill, Big Eddie, and you're right about that. In 2013, his bill, and yes, he has been introducing a bill, he has a plan that he is putting forward, and that plan will be finalized. And, you know, if the secretary, she has a tax credit, that's not a real health care plan. So while she's criticizing Senator Sanders, she needs to take a look at what she's doing. And so I'm just boggled by this whole thing, Big Eddie. You're absolutely right. Of all the things to be fighting another Democrat on, health care for all should not be one of them.
Okay. She continues to talk about the polls, how she is sliding. She says they almost don't matter. Here it is.
It's a big deal. They just came out today with the New York Times or someone came out, the national numbers, that Bernie and you are kind of close.
Oh,
now.
We're in a tight race.
Well, you had like a 20-point lead at one point.
Well, yeah, but, you know, that's really artificial. All of those early soundings and polls. Once you get into it, this is a Democratic election for our nominee, and it gets really close, exciting, and it really depends upon who makes the best case that you can be the nominee to beat whoever the Republicans put up, and try to get your folks who support you to come out. I find it exciting. I mean, this is not a job they give away. You really do have to work hard for it, and it is the hardest job in the world. So I get up every day and go right at it.
I don't think Hillary Clinton ever thought it was going to be like this. I think she thought by the first of the year she'd have had this thing wrapped up. So here's where we are. The polls, in fairness to all of them, it's too close to call. So the question is, Nina Turner, and you have been in this part of politics all your life, it's now down to get out the vote. What's going to happen?
That's it, Big Eddie. It is.
I mean, what is going to happen in Iowa? What is going to happen in New Hampshire? I mean, we'll figure out. The public will decide where this is all going. If Bernie Sanders wins 2, he starts out 2-0. But what about just starting out 1-0? What are the chances, in your opinion, that he is going to win the Iowa caucus the way it is right now?
The chances are very strong. As you know, Senator Sanders, there was a big gap between him and the secretary. He has closed that gap. They are in a dead statistical heat right now. And, you know, we all know that polls are snapshots in time, but I take it from me as a candidate, when the poll is trending your way, you are excited. When it's not polling your way, you spinning. And that's exactly what is happening here. Make no mistake about it. But the folks, I've been in Iowa, Big Eddie, with the senator, and people are excited. It is electric. You can feel the excitement about the senator and about what he is proposing for this country, and that is to lift all people, to give folks an opportunity to live a good life. His principles mirror that. You know, I call him a person that has heart-soul agreement. And if anybody wants to check his record from now until when he first started in this, you will see a man of integrity, and that is ringing through in Iowa, and that is why folks are getting jumpy. I don't think anybody believes, because as we know, the corporate media has not been giving Senator Sanders the same airtime that they have been giving everybody else, both on the Dem side, but especially on the Republican side. But the people power, Eddie, that is what we're seeing happen in Iowa and New Hampshire, and it is going to flow all all across this country that Senator Bernie Sanders is the right person to be the next president of the United States of America, and there is nothing that anybody can do about it. The people will have the final say.
Ohio State Senator Nina Turner, surrogate for the Sanders campaign. Always great to visit. We'll do it again. Thanks, Nina.
Thank you, Eddie.
This is the Ed Schultz News and Commentary. We're here every day, Monday through Friday. When we come back, Richard Viguerie, the godfather of the conservative movement, chairman of conservativehq.com, his take on what unfolded last night in the Republican debate, the contentious point back and forth about Cruz's eligibility with Donald Trump. That's next. Hey, folks, you've heard me talk about Bio Green Clean. I'm going to show you right now on my airplane just how tough this is. I want you to keep in mind, chemical-free, 100% plant-derived, biodegradable. It is the safest cleaner that you can get, and it's the most effective. Go to our website, wegoted.com, or go to biogreenclean.com. www.biogreenclean and order today. It's time to continue our conversation about mechanical insulation. Mechanical insulation is for the piping systems in our nation's commercial and industrial facilities. Facility owners are burning up billions of dollars through the lack of mechanical insulation on these piping systems. Call the iSave team. Insulation saves America valuable energy, and this team of energy conservation specialists is shovel-ready to save you money. Visit iSaveTeam.org to have a specialist give your plant an energy audit.
We perpetuate a culture of crime all the way from Wall Street right down to the main street in our hometowns. It's worse than it has been since FDR took control of the problem and said we can't count on industry taking care of the American labor. They probably have already engaged into some type of criminal cover-up, and the law prohibits the government from even doing anything about it.
Catch America's lawyer Mike Papantonio on YouTube at youtube.com/GoLeftTV.
Here's the problem. We're running. He does great. I win. I choose him as my vice presidential candidate, and the Democrats sue because we can't take him along for the ride. I don't like that, okay? The fact is, and if for some reason he beats the rest of the field, if for some, see, they don't like that. They don't like that. No, they don't like that he beats the rest of the field because they want me. But if for some reason, Neil, he beats the rest of the field, I already know the Democrats are going to be bringing a suit. You have a big lawsuit over your head while you're running, and if you become the nominee, who the hell knows if you can even serve in office?
Donald Trump entertaining the crowd at the debate last night. He is right about a lawsuit if Cruz is in the mix at the end of the day as a presidential or vice presidential nominee, because Alan Grayson from Florida, Congressman, said he would sue. We do know this, that Cruz was not born in the United States. He was born to an American citizen on Canadian soil. And there is a conversation that is breaking out in legal circles about whether he is eligible to be president or vice president. Richard Viguerie, godfather of the conservative movement and chairman of conservativehq.com. Mr. Viguerie, good to have you with us.
Good to be with you again, as always, Ed.
You bet. You told us months ago you thought Cruz would eventually, the cream would come to the top. Well, he's in the mix. There's no question. He has a very slim lead in Iowa. He's in a hell of a lot better shape than all the others who are trying to take on Trump. I want your take on this eligibility issue. How do you view it? The Constitution's very clear, or is it?
Well, Constitution is clear, but how do you interpret it? And the legal evidence at the preponderance is right now, Ed, that Cruz is qualified to run for president. Who knows how the Supreme Court would eventually rule if it got to that. I have a friend who's a very high-ranking legal official in the country who says, and I think I've heard this other places, no one has standing right now to challenge him. So the only time you can legally challenge him is if it becomes a fact that he's now the president of the United States. So it's really, much to do about nothing. I think it's a compliment for Cruz. People recognize his opponents, that including mainstream media and Trump, that he's a serious, contender here. So
but would you would you admit that if Cruz is in the mix, that there will be some legal issues? And the question
absolutely, sure.
Okay.
I mean, sure,
and
the Democrats. That doesn't mean that they'll have standing before the court. It could easily be quickly thrown out.
Okay. Trump is talking about go to a court right now and get a declaration on this. What do you think of that?
Well, that's a compliment again on how serious Trump is worried about Cruz. It's an idiotic thing to propose, and it's nothing about anything serious. So anyway, it's a distraction on the part of Trump. It's not going anywhere.
All right, Trump did say this about it.
So why now? Why are you raising this issue now?
Because now he's doing a little bit better. No, I didn't care before. It's true. No, it's true. Hey, look, he never had a chance. Now he's doing better. He's got probably a 4 or 5% chance.
I guess I respect that answer, because why pay attention to somebody that's not going to do anything? If somebody's going to do something and somebody's polling well and doing well, then obviously the scrutiny becomes a little tighter and a little bit more focused. Okay, who is this guy? So I understand what Trump is saying there. Mr. Viguerie, what about Donald Trump? There's a lot of folks that believe that he is the inevitable. Your thoughts?
He's certainly not inevitable. I think I've said it a number of times on your show here, Ed. I think it's really a three-person race. Everybody else is being diminished daily here. It's Trump, Cruz, and Rubio. No one else has really got a serious chance here. And I think it really is a contest between Trump and Cruz. And in an interesting way, Trump's attacks and the mainstream media's attacks on Cruz eligibility could work to Cruz's advantage, because we know that Republican primary voters assume that my enemy's enemy must be my friend. And when the liberals are going after Cruz on this eligibility issue, I think it could strengthen Cruz.
Well, now you got Hillary Clinton and Bernie Sanders in a scrap over health care. What do you got? That's got to be entertaining for you conservatives.
Well, it is, but I don't think we're paying much attention to it now. We've got our hands full right now with our own issues here.
All right. But, let's go back to Cruz for a moment. What about this loan? That $1 million loan that he was asked about last night, and he spun it off on the New York Times. How do you feel about that? Is he in trouble here? Does he have to answer this in more detail?
Well, I think he has answered it. He said he filed 2 reports, both of them public, and one report had the loan on it, and the other report was left off. So he wasn't hiding anything. He filed 2 reports. One had it listed, the other didn't. So I think it's a non-issue.
All right, if we go back and look at past Iowa caucuses, the conservatives have done very well. I think we can make the case that Rick Santorum's a pretty strong conservative. We can make the case that Huckabee is also pretty conservative. They've both won Iowa and then didn't go anywhere.
Yeah.
Is Cruz following that path? I mean, if you look at rural Iowa and the way it votes when they come out, the evangelicals do swing it. So Cruz has got, I think, a great shot of winning it, but where does he go after that? And what do you think would happen if he did win Iowa? Big
difference, Ed, between Huckabee, Santorum, and Cruz here in terms of Iowa, because both Huckabee and Santorum threw everything they had into Iowa, almost to the exclusion of everything else. Everybody, Republicans, Democrats, conservative, liberals, mainstream media, acknowledged that Cruz has the best campaign this year of all of the candidates. Got the best ground game not only in Iowa, but in South Carolina, in Nevada, in this state and that state. So he's running a 50-state campaign, unlike Santorum or Huckabee's. Big difference.
He's doing a better job than Trump?
Oh, absolutely. In terms of a ground game, absolutely. I think everybody acknowledges that. Cruz is really organized. He's raised more hard dollars than any other Republican candidate. He has more individual donors to his campaign than any other candidate out there. He's highly organized. He's running a 50-state campaign. When it gets to the southern states, March 1st, everybody acknowledges he's going to be in really strong shape there. Unlike Santorum, who I supported in 2012, a good friend, but he wasn't prepared to move beyond Iowa, and it was playing catch-up all the time. Not so with Cruz. Cruz. He's highly organized.
Richard Viguerie, great to have you with us, Mr. Viguerie. Appreciate it. We'll do it again. Thank you.
Great. Bye.
Godfather of the conservative movement and chairman of conservativehq.com. I think he's a great resource and a good guy. When we come back, John Nichols, Washington correspondent of the nation. So much more to talk about in the Hillary-Bernie scrap, and what do we see in the next debate? Stay with us.
From the steel mills of Pennsylvania, to the auto factories of Michigan, to the modern makers movement, manufacturing makes our nation great. I'm Scott Paul, president of the Alliance for American Manufacturing. We bring business and labor together to advocate for policies that everyone can agree on. Together, we can strengthen manufacturing and create good-paying American jobs. Help us keep it made in America.
Like us on Facebook at We Got Ed, and thanks so much for that. RT America, that's where I work here in Washington, D.C. The news with Ed Schultz starts on January 25th, Monday night, 8 p.m., Monday through Thursday on RT America. Then we're going to be taping during the week a sit-down interview with a key player in American politics, which will play on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday on RT. And if you're thinking correctly, it would be a 3-day weekend, but it was also going to be an opportunity to go around the country and do the stories that I know that are very important. So this is a very exciting opportunity for me. And a man that you're going to see on the news with Ed Schultz quite often is this gentleman, John Nichols, Washington correspondent of The Nation magazine. John, good to have you with us.
It is always a pleasure to be with you, Ed.
You bet. All right. Liberals did not anticipate a dust-up between Hillary and Bernie over health care. How do you think the progressive community is responding to the back and forth on this?
You're absolutely right that people did not anticipate that this was going to be the line where people start fighting over. And my sense is that the Clinton campaign is making an error in trying to do the lines of division here. And I think the reason for that is that they are, to my mind, underestimating the extent to which grassroots activists, Democratic voters, kind of people who would vote in caucuses and in primaries, are aware of and, frankly, quite sympathetic to a single-payer Medicare for all model, the sort of thing that Sanders has long advocated for, and, frankly, that an awful lot of Democrats have advocated for. Remember, many of the people who are endorsing Hillary Clinton for president and sincerely backing her are also backers of single payer. People like Tammy Baldwin, the senator from Wisconsin. So I just don't see it as a particularly great strategy.
It's a terrible strategy, and also because the Republicans have voted to get rid of what's out there right now. So, I mean, it's an all-or-nothing campaign right now, Republican versus Democrat, because the Republicans don't have a plan out there. But of all things, and she's trying to say that there would be a big tax increase, when it's been documented by my colleague Tom Hartman that it would be a savings to every American family if we did have universal health care, because every family is not sick, you know, and everybody would be paying in. So I don't know. I'm surprised at this. I think Chelsea embarrassed herself on the campaign trail. I think it sets the table for Bernie Sanders to really address it in the next debate. How do you think that's going to unfold?
Well, first off, I think that all the discussion about Chelsea Clinton has to be viewed as totally secondary. It shouldn't be, where this is at all. And I'll tell you why. This can't turn into some sort of personalities, or do you like this person, or what do you like what this kid of this candidate said?
Well, John, her substance was terrible. That's the point, and she was used by the Clinton campaign to try to influence. That's the point.
No, I understand what you're saying. I'm not disagreeing with you, but I am saying that that's not the place where anybody ought to go on this thing.
Yeah.
Where they ought to go is to the substance itself. Go to the heart of the matter. And the fact is that in this debate, if the moderators are doing any kind of good job at all, they're going to bring this issue up, right? And the question to be asked, the real question to be asked is, are you in favor of health care as a right? You start with that basic concept. If your answer is yes, and I think all three candidates up there will say yes, then the question is, well, how do you, if it's a right, if everybody has a right to decent health care in this country, then how do you guarantee that? Because we're not even there yet. President Obama's brought us a long way. I mean, give him immense credit. But, we've still got a lot of work to do to wire this thing together. And then let them have their debate. If Hillary Clinton wants to say there's some sort of, and I'm going to use this word, advisedly, convoluted way to get everybody health care, working with insurance companies and doing all these different, steps and twists and turns, that's fine. But I'm going to tell you, I think in a debate setting, a simple, clear explanation of single-payer Medicare for all health care is going to come over very well. And Ed, there's an answer. When you say it's going to raise taxes, it's going to devastate everything, it's going to be all these problems. Ed, we created a single-payer system in this country in the mid-1960s with a stroke of the pen. Mm-hmm. Lyndon Johnson looked at the scorching poverty among the elderly, rooted in health care costs. And what did he do? He created Medicare and Medicaid. And those single-payer programs have worked unimaginably well. People love them. And so I think if that's where this discussion goes, my sense is it's going to be a very, frankly, a pretty strong one for Sanders.
I think the next poll out, the next true survey, now that we've had about 3 days of this dust-up on health care, the next poll out between the two candidates in Iowa is going to be very interesting to see if this has any kind of effect whatsoever. There's no doubt, since Bernie has been getting more coverage with the mainstream media because they have to, because of his fundraising and his crowds, I mean, he just will not go away in their mind the way they think. They don't want to cover him. He's moving up, and it's much tighter right now. The whole issue now is turnout. You've spent a lot of time in Iowa, so has Nina Turner, who we talked to earlier. I mean, some of the things I'm hearing, it could be a record turnout at these caucuses over this.
Oh, I expect it will be. Look, I think the caucuses have been on an upward trajectory. You always get an unclear read because we have these off cycles. In 2012, you had low, caucus turnout. It wasn't a big deal because Obama was unopposed. But if you go back to 2008, they were going to record turnout, right? Mm-hmm. I don't see any reason why that won't move continually on that direction. So I think there's going to be a bump. But, Ed, the real question is this. How big a bump? And I've said to you before, I'll say it again. If you and I were sitting in a parking lot at some school or some, hall in Iowa, and if you see young people, folks, frankly, under 40, driving up in their cars, and probably a used car, an older car, and parking and going into that caucus, and a lot of them, then you're going to have to bet that Sanders is doing very, very well. Yeah. On the other hand, if the turnout skews toward a more traditional caucus turnout, my sense is that that's going to be good for Clinton, although one thing to emphasize is a lot of those older traditional caucus goers are people who have, for a very long time, fought these health care fights.
No doubt, no doubt. John Nichols, always good to visit. Great to have you with us. We'll do it again. See you on the tube, my friend. Thank you.
Take care, brother.
John Nichols, Washington Correspondent of the Nation. We ask you to support our sponsors on our website at wegoted.com. They're with us again in 2016. Communication Workers of America, Alliance for American Manufacturing, BioGreen Clean, and the iSave team. Have a great weekend. We're back Monday.